The world is truly your oyster today if you're in business. Thanks to developments in information communications technology, the world has been reduced to a global village, and just about every business owner wants to tap into new markets. However, still, it's not that simple. There are complexities to take cognizance of. Therefore, there are many trade institutions set up globally to help. But to understand some considerations, here is Dr. John Demartini in the studio with me to discuss. John, you're a successful international entrepreneur, a global brand, because you travel across the world, you've tapped into many new markets, and you're quite successful at it. Well, what were some of the initial considerations you had to keep in mind before entering these new markets?
I wish I could tell you that it's a very special approach to it. When I was starting out my speaking career, I would do my best to bring, information that would be invigorating and inspiring, and they would not get anywhere else. Original ideas. And what I found is that if I did that, and I made a comment that, if you know anybody that could benefit from this, I'd ask them at the end of it, how many of you thought of somebody who could have benefited from this information?
Sure.
And most people put their hands up. And I said, I would appreciate any opportunity that you can think of to be able to help reach more people and bring this information to them. And I just asked for what I wanted. Well, what would happen is there would be a networking process from that. And I found out that this person knew so-and-so, and it just gradually networked. And I never stopped that.
Yeah.
So I really believe that there's a power in networking, whether you're doing it social networking, or you're doing it live in presentations, or you're doing it with your brand recognition. Networking to me is what opened up the doorways, because I learned from Walter Haley, who helped build Kmart, helped influence Kmart. He was a mentor of mine. He was in that one group that I had that was meeting every week. And he said that there's naturally existing economic relationships. People who are satisfied as customers, that love what you're doing, that naturally have enthusiasm to want to share the market. Those are the natural organic openings to reach new markets. And even though advertising kind of generally gets out there in kind of a shotgun approach, and it's reaching people, even if it may be targeted, that's reaching people, and that's helping me reach people, no doubt, like social media. But the naturally existing economic relationships, still to this day, are still where I get the greatest networking opportunities and greatest customers by word of mouth. So exposing yourself to new people, I think, is essential for the entrepreneur. And not just do it through an indirect means of media, but actually interact. I was sitting on a conference in Atlanta, Georgia, and the senator was another speaker. We were both speaking together. And I asked the senator, how did he win? How did he get there? How did he get to be the senator? And he said, I literally went door to door and met thousands and thousands of people who ran companies and that had problems and things. And I literally went door to door. And some of my constituents, they were going out and doing the media and the television and everything else, but they weren't connecting with people. He says, I went out and I found their problems and we found solutions for them, and I served people. And that made me the senator. I'm still using that process today. I'm just now expanded my network now. I have a whole United States network of all these other senators. And when there's a problem somewhere that I think I can solve, I use that network. So I'm going to make a comment, then that's networking, either social media networking or real life networking. It's who you know and who you can serve that opened up gateways and doorways for a global impact today. And that can be used and done by mediation through social media and the internet. But it's building relationships with people that actually build business, in my opinion.
Because you don't know where the next opportunity is.
Building relationships. If I'm on a plane, I'm talking to people. If I'm in a line, I'm talking to people. And this is kind of off the wall. I was just speaking in Madrid, this is many years ago, 15, 16 years ago. I was speaking in Madrid, just got through. I'm going to the airport. They're dropping me off the airport. I'm going through the customs. And I meet a woman there and sitting in front of me. And I started teasing her and stuff and having some fun with her. She's about 80, 80-something. And all of a sudden, this 80-something-year-old man comes up and starts to wedge in between me and her. And he says to her, he says, I go away and I go get you something at the store, and you're back here talking to a younger man, because this lady was 30 years older. And he says, I can't believe I can't trust you. We've been married all these years and I can't trust you with those younger men. We were just teasing and joking. We went through the customs, we went to the club lounge, and I started talking to him. And I said, what do you do? And he says, well, I'm a retired OBGYN. And he said, what do you do? I said, well, I travel and I educate and I research and write. And I said, well, where did you practice? He said, Herman Hospital. I said, oh my God, I was born in Herman Hospital. And he said, what year were you born? I said, 1954. He said, morning or afternoon? I said, in the morning. He said, well, young man, then if you were born in the morning of 1954, I delivered you.
But I knew you were going to say that.
And I met the man. I looked at my birth certificate, and that was the man who delivered me.
Wow, that's
pretty amazing. He wedged between me and my mom, and I wedged between him and his wife.
Yeah.
I got him back finally. But the point is that developed, because I spoke up and because I interacted with people and I engaged in people. I opened up a doorway to get me to speak at that hospital I was born at because of that.
Fantastic. Synchronicity again, yeah?
I believe that you want to take advantage of caring enough about people that you interact with that in a prioritized fashion that help you expand your network, because it's about caring. I really believe that selling is caring.
Sure.
And it's about caring enough about people to find out what their needs are and meet those needs. And if you help them get what they want, they help you get what you want. And I've spread across the world, I believe, doing that. That is the one thing that I'm consistently do. My father told me that if I deliver people a service more than they expect, and they feel that they got a value out of it, you'll never worry about business. And I'm a firm believer that I try to give them 4 times the amount than what they're expecting. And as a result of it, that they keep helping me. They're my sales force.
Sure.
That's how, and that's stretched across the world today. And I had the vision. I set a goal when I was a teenager that I wanted to be going step foot on every country on the face of the earth. Yeah. I've had a global map in my office. I have a globe there. I have pins in every country that I've gotten to speak in. I've actually done that. I've actually thought of it. I've gone in and visualized exactly the country. I've actually gone in and looked at the actual theaters, the convention halls, and the hotel rooms of the major hotels and locations in a city in advance, and visualized that and looked at that and thought, okay, I want to imagine that. I watched a movie by Houdini, the great Houdini, and he performed at the Palladium. And he had royalty up in the balconies. And he performed. And I saw that, and I cut out that picture. And I got a picture of the Palladium. And I held that vision on there, and I knew that that was in London. And I kept opening up networks. You know anybody in London? Know anybody in London? Everything else like that. And in 2008, Horizon Events and Triumphant Events put together a dual thing, put 2,000 something people into the Palladium, and I had the opportunity to stand in front of the Palladium to 2,000 people with royalty in the room. And I know that's because I networked, I went and did extra work, I had a vision of what I wanted to do, and I didn't stop towards I got it. Took me many years to do it. It took about 12 years to go from the first idea to that outcome, but we got it.
If I look at your business, it's a business that you can replicate. It's one business that you literally go around the world and offer the same service. If you lecture in Johannesburg, you're doing the same lecture in London or somewhere in the United States, etc. But businesses can be quite diverse in their offerings. Is it important, how important is it to be adaptable to new markets is what I'm trying to make.
I think that's why I have been more viable than some speakers. Some speakers have one speech. Or 2 or 3. I made a commitment that I would continually research and learn on a daily basis. So I have new material that I can consistently offer. And I can do, I have a promoter in Australia, and they've been promoting me for about 15 years there. And we've never done the same talk twice, other than the breakthrough experience. We do that, that's pretty consistent. But the evening talks have never been the same talk twice. And very few speakers have the capacity to go and do that many different topics. Even what we're doing here, we're doing different topics constantly. And so that's where it gives you the adaptability and resiliency to be able to consistently do it. But that brings an accountability of consistently learning. And if you're not learning and you're just refining one package, once you've heard it, there's no market there. You have to go get a different market all the time. I can go back to the same market and bring in new information, and that market will keep sharing with that. And that's been one of my niches that allowed me to do that. So you must have adaptability because it's changing. You must be able to keep current with what's going on and with information, or to make sure that your classical information that doesn't change, either one. And you must also meet the needs as the needs are emerging. And if you're not keeping current with it, so let me give you an example in my case. We'll go on and we'll look on the media and look at all the radio shows and look at all the magazines and look at what the topics are on there that's topical. And then we'll go and take that and we'll find a common denominator, and then I will research that and make sure that I'm at the cutting edge and knowledge and from that, even if I have to get mentors. And I have 20 mentors around the world that are in specialties that send me data every day. So I'm constantly getting new information. And then I'll make sure I'll deliver something that's topical, that's information-based, that will help them move forward and solve a problem in there. If I do my job, I don't have to worry about my business. It grows. So I have my responsibility, and then each person in the company has their responsibilities, and they have to constantly keep current and up to date with what's going on and keep learning in the process. If you're not learning, you're decaying. If you're not green, as long as you're green, you're growing. As soon as you're ripen, you're rot.
Sure. Again, your offering is quite niche in terms of you being a human behavior specialist and you wanting to impact on people's lives, etc. But how important is it for you when you're traveling to new markets or to the countries across the globe to understand the indigenous culture and values of those countries? Well,
if I don't communicate in those values, the conversation right before we started today, if I don't communicate in the values, I don't meet their needs. Charisma is not something inherent in a person. That's not a charismatic person.
Yeah.
Charisma is the ability to take whatever you're doing and put it in a way where the people feel they're getting their needs met. Those people will label you charismatic because you're caring enough to meet their needs. If you do that, you have charismatic energy.
And I suppose you have to relate to them in terms of their background and in terms of their mindset and cultural
Otherwise
beliefs.
You lose them.
Yeah.
So now when I go to different cultures, sometimes, like first time I went to Tehran, it was very interesting. I had a faction of people that didn't like something I had written in one book, under my relationships book. They wanted to attack me in the media and everything else.
Yeah.
And so they said, when you come here, I just want to let you know we're going to have to have bodyguards for you, and you have to have security and everything else, because there's a group of people. We had to go through the gates where all these people were, kind of mobbing, kind of like the movie Argo or whatever.
What did you say about
Well, there was something in one of my books that went against Sharia law there's no law, there's no copyright law in Tehran, so they just publish whatever the books they want.
Okay.
So I didn't even know it was published there. I didn't know I had 12 books published there. So in the process of doing it, there was something in there that went against their structure. And if you're really fundamentalist in your view, you would be nitpicky about
Sure.
it. And so they wanted to attack me in the media on that and go on television and challenge me on that. And so I went in there and I had to go through this kind of group. And I went inside, and they had security covering the place because there was government people there and leaders there. And then we had 3 bodyguards. And at the end, by noon, because I did a whole day program, and by noon, it all dissipated because they didn't hear anything I said that was offensive to them.
Okay.
But in the book, their translator translated it in a way that was
offensive. Yeah?
I didn't even know what they translated originally. But I found out that it was actually a translation
So there are challenges in markets, etc.
But that was invigorating. Yeah. That was a very experience. I mean, I wouldn't pass that up for the world. But I had to learn 39 rules of that law that they were following and study those on the flight from Tokyo into Tehran to make sure I was aware of things to not do and do in that country, or I'd be offending them.
You're careful when it comes to stepping on toes, are you?
Yeah, well, sometimes I just go for it. I go for the jugular and I take the risk. But if I can say it in a way and get my message across and do it in a way that's not offensive to them, I'm going to do it.
Sure.
If I don't know how I'm going to do it without possibly stepping on some toes that I think they may need to step on toes, I'll step on it. I'll challenge it. Because I see sometimes right now in psychology, for instance, that some of them are, the big thing is the promotion of victim mentality, and you're a victim and you're innocent and the world is doing this to you, and it's nothing to do with you. And I challenge that. I think that's, people have the capacity to alter their perceptions, decisions, and actions and become masters of destiny, not victims of history. Yeah. And so I'm not much in favor of the idea that you're, because this happened to you, that's why you're screwed up and that's why you can't do things in your life.
Yeah.
I don't ever think it's the world on the outside that really dictates that. It influences it, but it doesn't determine ultimately that. And so I challenge it. I stand up and I challenge some things. But I'm going to make sure I know my material before I do the challenge.
Yeah.
But if I can see that if I can go into a country and I can get within their rules and their laws and I can say what I want to say without any problem inside their things, I'm going to figure out and adapt and try to figure out how to do that.
In entering certain markets, John, did you have to engage with local government or government officials or bodies before you entered? Did you face any regulation that challenged you as a business person?
A few countries, not too many. Most of the time I go into the country and I'm well received, and there's people that say hi, and I meet them, and I do my presentation, and there's different people of all different scales in there, in social structure, and sometimes there's government people there, and I don't find a lot of resistance.
Are there any countries you would not want to enter?
No, I had a dream to go to every country.
So are you in every country?
Yeah, every country. I wanted to go to every country. I didn't care what it was. I wanted to go because I wanted to learn, and that was part of my objective. I tick them off as I go. I've been to 140 countries, so I'm ticking them off as I go. I was in Kuwait, and there was a royal family there, and we went to dinner afterwards, and I got to meet them, and they're trying to get me into Mecca, which you're not supposed to unless you have a Muslim background, you know. But they were trying to figure out how to get me into Mecca to come and do a presentation there, and I thought that was pretty novel, you know. It was great. I'd take the risk of that.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So I think I've done some things that are probably, you know, probably a little bit risky, but I'd take advantage of it because it's an adventure. It's your life. I
was just about to say, I mean, it's an adventure, yeah, and you learn from these experiences.
You learn and you venture, and you learn how to adapt, and you get to meet different cultures, and you meet different people, and you find out that there's Montaigne, the French philosopher, went around the world and studied cultures and found out that there was a complete spectrum of values, and we had a discussion today about it. In earlier South Africa, some of the tribal belief systems, when you went to the king to offer something, to ask for something, you offered something. There was an exchange there. And now in different political structures there, that's called bribery. but in that culture, that was perfectly normal. So if you don't understand culture, you'll label things and react to things without understanding it. So when I go into a new country, I'm usually studying everything I can get my hands on the culture to get an idea of the philosophy, the history, the things that are important to them, the mores. Try to get some of that. Some of that I may challenge. Some of it I may just go, wow, I'm learning from it. And I've actually seen some highlights of different countries that are meaningful that I think developing countries could learn from.
Yeah.
And so I then use that to come back to developing countries and say, you know, this is what we learned from a really old country that's maybe not as developed, but they basically have a great history. So you try to take the best of the best.